So, you see the NWO Wolfpack.
Then not to mention they put Bret Hart in there.
Yeah, because Bret Hart, he finally started doing something. He had been in the company for like a whole year before he did anything.
Only thing he did was count Hogan out to Sting in
Arcade they had the fake thing that he was supposed to be the referee, and they ended up they was about to show down the match, and then they somehow he joins, and then something happened with Savage, and I don't remember. I like that. I didn't like Bret Hart in WCW a lot, and we're gonna talk about that in a second because I got a bone to pick with WCW about that. But don't let me forget about the Bret Hart thing. So okay, so you had your split, and you have guys your WCW staples, pretty much Hogan. Sting, Lex Luger. They joined. Conan was a defective in NWO Black and White with Nash, and so you have
a whole bunch of misfits. Scott Norton.
Yeah, I don't know
Buff Bagwell.
Who let those guys in the group.
Well, Bagwell said on Mike Knox's show that he was begged to be, he begged to be in the clique.
I mean, they had an NWOB team.
Yeah,
because they had different music too. Like you don't realize it until if you watch old stuff. It was like a triple threat match between Scott Norton, Vincent, and it was like a 6-man tag, and they came out to their own separate music. And I was on YouTube one day, and I'm like, "What the heck is NWOB music?" And I can't remember, but when I saw it on TV, I was like, "Oh, they literally had a second, smaller group within a group." But you had the Wolfpack, and I thought it was the best thing in the world. You had to get used to Sting wearing the red and black at first, but then after a while, I was like, "Okay, cool. He's beefing with Bret Hart." So Bret Hart joins the NWO. He was about the NWO, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is. This is where WCW messed up. WCW was already depleted. All the major stars were literally in the NWO, in black and white, in red and black. So you have, I think the last major star they had of WCW, a main eventer, in my opinion, besides Goldberg,
was DDP.
It's DDP. Goldberg was a story of his own. You feel me? And you had a guy like freaking DDP, and they were trying to get him to join the Wolfpack, and I ain't gonna lie, I wanted them too bad. I was like, son, just take the shirt. Just take the shirt. And he didn't. I think Sting reached out to him or something, and Sting was like, "Yeah, man, you want to do this?" And he took the shirt and he laid it on and walked away. And so you have Bret Hart, who just came in, was the face of the WWF, actually left, in my opinion, because he still wanted to be the face of the WWF. They had an opinion of what direction the company should go in, and Bret felt like he could still be that guy, but they wanted to go with Shawn because of what we said previously about DX. What Shawn and Triple H were doing was very edgy and cutting edge, and they got a lot of trouble, but they realized it brought them a lot of ratings, so they started to go in that direction.
Right.
Bret Hart felt like, no, we can still do it this way, and which is understandable because if you understand Bret Hart, he never liked the fact that he had to use entertainment to get over with the fans. He wanted to give you pure wrestling and let you entertain you that way. That was always his beef with Hogan. He felt like after Hogan left, I got to wean people off of being entertained by people,
right?
But let me go out there and perform a match, and you be entertained by that. Which one? It's very few people that can do that. That can put on a wrestling match and entertain you without doing much entertainment. Kurt Angle's like one of the few people that I know can do that. Daniel Bryan, as funny as he is,
and Kurt Angle's funny.
Kurt, he's just unbelievable.
Brett was as good as, but Brett, as far as entertainment, you give him the right person. Like when he was beefing, when you had the Hart Foundation, beefing with I should say the Americans, the Canadians versus the Americans. Bret would have you entertained by stuff like that.
I thought he was a great heel.
Oh,
and to be honest with you, that was one of the first times you actually saw Bret Hart, an extension of a character of some type of Bret. Because Bret Hart didn't cut a lot of promos. He's like, I'm the hitman, yada yada yada. But it wasn't like there was no gimmick to him. He was just the best who is, the best who was, the best ever will be. That's his execution. That was it until he turned heel. And he went, and I love the man as a heel. But you have an opportunity to do something in WCW. He can be the new face of WCW. But yet they film in the NWO. Who's running this dang on company? You feel me? Talk about dropping the ball. But of course, what do you think about the NWO Reunion in TNA as the band?
It's as good as Squad 5.
There you go again.
My bad. I'm just saying, just terrible, just terrible.
It's like this though. Actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. I enjoyed it only because I had a moment while I was back in WCW.
That's all I had.
I mean, that's
being able to do this. You see the band, and then you click over. You see Bret and Shawn reuniting.
Yeah, that was.
And then you be able to click over. I was like, I still remember my Facebook status. I said, wow, I feel like I'm 12 years old again.
You felt back like you was back in 97, 98 again. It was fun. It was like, okay. And I still like Scott Hall. I still like Kevin Nash. In doses. Because I didn't like Kevin Nash as much in TNA as much as I liked him as a return to WWE.
Okay, I was going to say, what about his latest return?
I enjoyed that because in TNA they let him do what he wanted, but didn't give him the credit that they didn't treat him like he was a legend. And he had a problem with that. Came back to WWE, made him feel special as Diesel, and he, took off. I enjoyed X-Pac's work. I feel like he looks the same as he did years ago. He's one of my favorite. Like, he's one of the most recognizable stars on the indie scene and in professional wrestling. He's been an impact and major. He's not
just a cool guy.
Yeah, Sean Waltman is good people's, man. He's just I know set aside his personal stuff, but what he does in the ring, man, is I've always enjoyed X-Pac. That was one of my guys. Scott Hall, same thing. Terrible with praying that he get himself together, but he's always one of my favorite guys. So I enjoyed it. It was funny. As far as TNA is concerned, I don't think it was going to help them because, this the same age-old problem where you have these, these older guys, coming back and they're the highlight of the show, and then at one point you even had you had Nash and Sting trying to stop Hogan because they knew, like, man, you let this keep going, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But then they had the whole thing and TNA came. Bischoff and Hogan did their thing and yada yada yada. And so forth. So, I enjoyed it for what it was because I got a chance to see my guys again, but I don't think it had the same effect. As also when they tried to revive it with Jeff Jarrett, they became like Black and Silver, like Nash, Bret Hart, and Jarrett, and somebody else. That was an epic fail. After a while, at the end of the day,
NWO 2000.
They tried to ride that train to the wheels. Like,
and literally they did. They rode it all the way down to the rotors.
Yeah, and by the time they got to the rotors, they couldn't go anymore. It was time to sell the car.
Usually what happens. The car wasn't even worth nothing.
One of the greatest factions of all time. Okay, so let me ask you this. We talked about it in WCW TNA. How about WWE's version of NWO?
Nexus.
I'm talking about WWE, the NWO stint in NWO.
My bad.
Trivia, you moving ahead, yo. We're not there yet.
No,
McMahon's thing when I'm gonna create a cancer. You remember? I don't know what the heck happened, but he was tripping that one day.
The thing is,
Hotbox today, man.
I know,
you get some real important phone calls right now, ain't you?
Yeah.
Hottest free agent on the market, huh?
What can I say? The thing is this: when you look at this episode, what we're doing right now, when we talk about gang warfare, there were a lot of dominant stables, a lot of great stables, but to get back to the sole foundation of this episode, talking about the gangs, and these are the ones you, good job, shouts out to the real Dwayne Allen.
That's me.
I'm gonna have a shirt for you later, but
I think I'm good with the shirt I got.
But far as you look at these stables, these were shown up gangs.
They really were.
That's what the WWE's version of NWO wasn't. You think about it.
No, you have a point.
Their sole purpose was supposed to be to beat the cancer and kill the WWE. What did they do?
Absolutely nothing.
They beat up on The Rock. They had their beef with Austin. Okay, the two biggest stars. But you only had them in the main event scene as opposed to all these other factions that were gang-like who tried to pretty much dominate the company. Right. You had a mid-carder, a main eventer, and an opening guy.
Right.
So that was the problem with that. They had Booker T, Shawn Michaels,
Goldust
for a little
bit. He wanted to join, and Booker T like, "No, man, I'm in. Y'all can't get you in." Because they were a tag team at the time. They were a funny tag team. "No, man, I'm in."
Goldust said that saved his, really saved his life.
I didn't think that was a real Goldust for some reason. I was like, they got a new guy. I don't know. I was tripping.
Who else would play that role? Well, I guess Vince Money.
Yeah.
So then obviously Nash and Hall was getting in trouble. Did X-Pac come back?
He came back afterwards.
Yeah, I thought
he came because by this time he wore
the shorts.
He was gone. That's when he came back fresh out of Japan. He had lost some weight, so he came back with his shorts, and he wore that for a couple of. I didn't like him because he had shorts. I'm like, man, go back to the old X-Pac outfit, man.
Yeah,
I'm a ring attire kind of guy. I don't know. And then they had the Big Show.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't let it go on too long.
I think they dropped the ball. I think when they dropped the ball tremendously, not because of WWE per se, but the circumstances of whatever happened backstage.
Yeah,
we all know Hall had gotten in trouble about some stuff, and who knows what Nash was doing, and
that's when he lost the retirement match. Hall, that is.
Yeah, that's he got in trouble because I was wondering, like, man, he just got back there. He was the first person to go. I remember him and Austin. Austin was beef with the NWO, which I thought was hilarious. He was getting with him. And then him and Hall and Austin were beefing for a little while. Hall got in trouble backstage. I guess it might have been around the same time as the Devil Flight. Yeah, the flight from hell. The infamous story about the WWE during that time. Scary story.
That's a segment for a different day.
It really is. And so I guess they got to get rid of Hall, and I think Hogan had gotten over a little bit too over than everybody thought he was. Everybody enjoyed, as a face, not as a bad thing, but as a face.
Yeah. He
came back as a bad guy, but people were so excited to see Hogan back on WWF television. It didn't matter what he said. They weren't convinced. They were just happy to see him back in WWF television. The fact that he was standing in the middle of the ring with NWO outfit on, with a Raw microphone, like, it looks weird as you watch. You're like, yo, this dude really was back on Raw. Like, yo, Hogan's back. And he has this thing, and this is how he makes his money, because every time when he leaves for a long time, he comes back. It's like, yo, at the end of the day, Hogan's back. You know what I mean?
Not to mention, and like you said, but when you put him in that WrestleMania, which the pay-per-view that Hogan made famous.
Absolutely. Continued by Shawn Michaels.
Vince created it. Hogan was the forerunner, got the ball rolling. Yeah. We'll put it on the map. Main evented for 8 consecutive years. Hasn't been done again.
Hogan, Cena's on his way.
He got it. Well, see, Cena's problem. It's different. It's a different day and age. Because
absolutely.
Obviously, you could say Cena the main evented all these WrestleManias, but when you look at the main event and what a main event was before and what a main event is now,
it's not the same caliber.
He's not at the bottom. He's not the last on the card.
Right.
In that many years in a row, but yeah, definitely you could say Cena's on his way, which everybody knows. I said it. I'll say it again. Cena will be here. Hogan will be here.
I'm not sure about that.
When we look 10 years from now or 20 years from now, not now, definitely not now. Yeah. But
once we become old farts, there's nothing left but the young kids that watch today. So,
and I'm sorry, but they're not gonna be going around. Are we going around telling our kids about Luthez?
I would say that's the same thing that happened back then.
Are we going around telling our kids about the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers? I mean, let's be real.
That's the same thing that happened. That's exactly why Luthez had a problem with Hogan, because his generation, who felt the same way that most people feel about Hogan now or Cena now. What happens when they're no longer talking about those guys anymore? Only people that are left are the people that know what they see, and like you said, so that's very possible. So
when you take that and you put Hogan in that WrestleMania ring, that's what did it. That's what had people like, wow. And you had in Toronto, where he fought Ultimate Warrior.
Right.
And that's the reason why that match should have went last. But that's why it was hard. That's why Hogan got over. Right. And I think if Hogan could have stayed the type of heel that he was, it could have lasted. Now, I ask you this. Imagine if NWO just stayed with, we go just for the argument's sake, Hogan, Nash, Hall, Six, and Eric Bischoff.
Wouldn't have had the greatest impact as it did when it grew.
Okay.
Because of, like you said, the foundation of this show, when you talk about, they were a gang. And they got over, from a fan's perspective, we can't speak from wrestlers, because wrestlers, will tell you, oh, they should cut that off and give us a chance. We can't speak, hey, that's their money, that's what they do. You can't say that, man. Guys like Jericho and all those guys who felt like Dean Malenko and Eddie, rest in peace, who wanted a chance, but really couldn't because those guys weren't getting out of the way. And most people took the cheap way out by, hey, I'm joining the NWO. I don't think it would have been as successful because they were so overwhelming. They would come out and fill the ring.
Yeah.
They would come out and, in WCW, those guys did whatever they wanted. Nash would come with a drink in his hand.
And I'm glad you said that. Because you said it best, to take the cheap way out. Because then I would like to sit back with, say, and maybe I'll ask her this the next time I talk to him, Scotty Riggs. How did that whole thing work? I remember he said that, he kind of supported Buff's decision in going. But was it a thing backstage where you were recruited? Did you request to be in there and they look at you? Or did some of the members request? Because like you said, at one point, there was a reason it said WCW NWO. It was a reason it said that.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, like, how far,
It really makes me wonder.
Yeah.
But I like the bigger group because it made Sting look that much more dominant. Because Sting used to clear a whole ring out. He would come down and he would take out everybody.
Yeah.
Something the Four Horsemen couldn't do, or something a lot of other guys, even Team WCW guys who like pulled band together, like Sting, Luger, and Big Show, who were trying to get rid of the NWO as a whole. So yeah, that's my take on